Hey, everybody, what is going on? I got my work shirt on and I've got a pretty special guest. I mean, not pretty, very special guest today for you. You are live on Shally's Alley. It is July 18th at 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, and this is not scripted. This is not a recording. Today, we have Rusty Rueff. Rusty and I met once a very, very long time. He is the guy who's reimagined HR. When I met him, he was at EA, Electronic Arts, that gaming and entertainment studio, and he helped shape Glassdoor and a few other startups as an advisor, board of advisor member. Nowadays, he finds time to jam with both democracy and the arts. Very passionate about the arts. We'll touch a little bit upon that. Say hi to everybody, Rusty.
Hey. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Shally. Excited to be here.
Yeah, man. It's awesome to see you. It's been a long time. I want to say, gosh, when were you at EA? When did you leave EA? 2005?
Yeah, 2005. So we're talking like
20 years.
More than 20 years ago.
Wow. And you still look like you did back then. I mean,
so I wish.
Is there a portrait in your bedroom covered up that's aging and do I need to call you Dorian from now on?
Don't do that. Yeah, no. Hey, what a blessing to be able to be alive and to be able to do things like we're doing now and to see the future show up. I mean, that's the most exciting thing about getting older.
I know, right? Exactly. That's the best part. It's like all these things that we were thinking about back in the 2000s, the OOs.
Yeah.
And some of them are happening now. Some of them not in the best ways, but some of them are. And yeah, you're right. Isn't that the best? Just be able to kind of put everything in fast forward and play it back and see time just sort of wind past you and everything that's happened. A lot has changed, but at the same time, I feel like a lot hasn't changed and we still need to do a little bit more growing up. In fact, I had this sort of strange conversation with my daughter last night. She's 17, going on 18. I mean, like we're talking about months now. Drives herself, goes to work, she's working full time, and finishing up her schooling. And she brought this. She was talking to me about history. She was like, "Do you, Dad? Do you know about the 1800s and early 1900s?" American, automation revolution and like the industrial revolution and everything. I'm like, yeah, I know a little bit about that. And she goes, "Dad, why are we still doing the same things? We haven't learned anything." Like, she's like, nothing's changed from then to now. Why haven't we figured out the same problems that they were having back then we're having now? And I was like, oh my God, a 17-year-old gets it. And like the rest of the world just doesn't catch on. So totally agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Catch me up a little. Oh, so yeah, go ahead.
And I was going to say, I was fortunate enough to know Steve Jobs. And, I think, I don't know what year he died. It's been a while, right? 2009, 10?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
That he died.
In there. Yeah.
And you think about a man who conceptualized and operationalized the future, amazing. All that he didn't see that's happened since then. I mean, he would be just so amazed at what has happened. And and you look at it and it reminds me sometimes like I'm a runner, so I get out and run, and there's a place where I run, and I run past the cemetery. And I look at a cemetery, and I go, there lies a whole bunch of people that thought they were indispensable.
Right.
But the future moves on. And so this little moment that we have on this earth to capture and to really do the best we can while we're here, and to enjoy what the future is what a gift, man. It's just what a gift. So the two of us doing this now with everybody that's on right here, I mean, it's a moment in time that we should treasure. We should absolutely treasure.
And this is one of the things that motivates me about continuing to do the shows. I don't make any money. There's no advertising or anything like that on this show. I've had a couple of guest advertisers that donated, a couple $100 it costs me like $1,000 a year to run the platform. And so, I've been fortunate to have a few donations basically, but it's not really supported by that. But one of the things that two things that keep me going with this thing every Friday, 1:00, we're at like 320 episodes now. One of them is the legacy that it's leaving behind in YouTube, which I know doesn't seem like a lot. And it's not, I'm not doing it for likes or clicks, but there's this archival of these interviews, of raw interviews with people that I care about, that I think have something valuable to say, that may not have had another opportunity to do that, or may just not have had the motivation, or whatever the reason is.
Right.
And I now have that, memorialized and archived. So that's part of it, is just the history of that. And the other part of it is just for me to like, this gives me a reason to keep in touch with everything that's going on, even if sometimes a whole week, Monday through Thursday, will go by and I'm heads down solving the problems at work and just forget to like go out and check. I'm literally afraid to go on LinkedIn these days because it's so much, it's politicized, it's hype, it's all about AI, and it's this mass hypnosis. So I like these moments where I talk to people who I know are not influenced by, the hive mind, if you will.
Right.
And it's kind of an important thing for me.
It is.
First thing I wanted to ask you is to kind of reconnect with our bases, right? You were a CHRO when I was like, basically just a recruiter. I mean, in 2003, 2004, I called myself a sourcer. I was starting the sourcing revolution, but I hadn't even spoken at international conferences or anything yet. And I was basically a production person. I was out there, sourcing candidates and talking to candidates. So you were already a CHRO, and I didn't even know what CHRO meant at the time, right? In that time when you were there was this sort of collision or merger or intersection of technology and creativity. Creativity and the arts, they're as long as humanity. They've been around since forever.
Right.
This technology and this new form of entertainment that was maligned, and some people thought, it was going to lead to all kinds of other stuff. And they got together, and electronic arts was a juxtaposition of those. When that collided, what did that? My question is, what did that environment teach you about building cultures that don't crush creators?
Yeah. It's a great question, and it's a hard question to answer because I did learn a lot of things. In the bigger answer of how do you create cultures that don't crush creativity?
The stakes were high. The talent was
totally.
The talent was phenomenal. The talent was elite talent. These were the top performers in their field, and this was groundbreaking. And if you tried to like put the IBM culture on top of this, it would have just imploded, right?
No, that's right. So here's what I learned. One, creative people are the most amazing people. Like people, we all have creativity, right? There's no doubt about it. We all have creativity. But those where their creativity is really their calling card are just amazing people.
Yeah.
But with it comes a whole bunch of other things. Like I grew up in my family. My father was a radio and television personality, extraordinarily creative. Also a theater guy, very involved in the arts.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay. Yeah. And so I grew up, and I also watched him take his creativity into the marketplace, being a guy that lived and died by rating points, and also having a father who had his picture on billboards around town, and what that meant to be a small
famous
town, but a celebrity, right? And with it comes a whole bunch of burdens, right? So, and I'll get to your question, but I once sat in a room with Frank Stella, the artist, the visual artist, and someone asked him a question. Says, Mr. Stella, why do you do what you do? And he said, those of us who have the burden to emulate the masters. And the word in there was burden.
Burden, yeah.
Right? Like if you're a creative person and you feel the burden, which I think you do, if that's your calling card, your lead card, you must express it. You must have an
You must.
environment.
It's a disease.
It's a disease. A positive disease, but
Yeah.
a burden. It's not a choice. It's not a wish. It's not a passion.
You
It's a
have to
burden.
get it out.
That's why actors and and a lot of people, they're willing to starve for it. Musicians, they're willing to starve to be able to do what they do. So you take an environment where you were bringing together creative people in a commercial enterprise to create something that was an output that had goals and expectations for the consumer and also for the company. And there's a whole bunch of factors that go into that. So now what you're asking is you're asking creative people to be channeled into an output against deadlines and milestones and goals and objectives. And that's not always how creative people work, right? Sometimes creative people and will say, I just need my space. I need my time. I need that. And yet you're overlaying on top of it this sort of corporate structure that says, no, this video game has got to ship by October.
Right. We have a business to
by
run.
Thanksgiving so that people can buy it for Christmas, right? So it has to.
Yep.
And you put those two things together, and it becomes a management of one size never fits all, but one size can't always fit one. You have to be.
Oh my God, that's.
You have to be able to put those two things together, and what a creative person has to understand and feel is they have to feel aligned with the mission and the purpose. They have to feel like the sacrifice that they're making is appreciated and worth it. Okay. And they have to feel like on the backside of it, they've accomplished something that was worth their time, their energy, their effort, and that sacrifice. And I'll give you an example. Okay. So I was fortunate enough to go to the premiere at Pixar of Ratatouille, the movie Ratatouille.
Oh man!
Okay? Right. So I'm sitting in their theater, and in front of me is a young guy, and what I find out is his mother on one side and his father on the other, and they're talking, and the mother asks the question, says, "So when will I know what you created?" "Oh, I'll tell you. She goes, "Okay." So we're watching the movie. The movie's going on. There's been no discussion, nothing. And all of a sudden, he does this. It's coming. Oh. Okay. And so, and now I'm paying attention to this versus the movie. But what's going on? And he goes, now it's coming. That was it. This is it. And he goes, that was it. And Dad leans over and goes, that was it.
Oh man.
And my heart broke.
Yeah.
Because he was so proud. It was this long, Shally, of what that was his thing.
But it was
his. So you have to feel like the thing that you did is appreciated. And so that was our job. Our job was to try to bring all of those things together so that we could get the most out of our creative people, and that they would walk away from any project that they ever worked on, any game, anything they ever created, and say, you know what? In the scheme of my life, the scheme of my job, the scheme of my career, the time that I have, the bite of the apple I had there was worth it. Because if you build a video game, even worse today than it was back when I was doing it, if you're a video game developer and it takes 3, 4, 5 years to develop a game, how many bites of the apple do you have?
Oh my God.
I'm going to do it for 25 years. Let's say I'm going to do it for the next 25 years. Maybe I'm going to build 4 games, 5 games. It better feel like this is totally worth it.
Wow.
For the sacrifice and the time I put in. So, we were by no means great at doing this. In fact, if you want to go back and, recant history, we were tough. Like, we had deadlines to meet, and there were things that had to happen. And I coined this phrase myself way back when I was in college, that the most productive days of our lives are those that are spent with our backs against the wall. And I think that it is true. Like, you give somebody, I had a script writing class in college where I showed up and the first day and the professor said, okay, everybody's going to write a movie script. Here's a template. Here's how you do it. I'll see you at the end of the semester.
Oh, geez. That's a class? No way.
Yeah. Think about that, Sally, right? So how many people waited until the last weeks or months? Pretty much everybody, right? And so you just can't do that when you have a commercial enterprise. You have to. So there's a push and a march and all those things. And there were people who called it the march, the march of death, and all of those things that would happen. But I always felt like any of us who ever in business ever pulled all-nighters, it's 2 o'clock in the morning with you're there working on a project and you're on the pizza for the second time, and you hate that you're there, but there's no place you'd rather be, right? Otherwise you'd go home and you wouldn't do it. And so I think in the creative world, trying to bring those things together, I think you give people, and I'll come back to TA about this, because I think talent acquisition people are very creative people. Like, one of the things that drives me crazy, and I've always said in all my years in talent acquisition, is you can be two kinds of talent folks. You can be a short order cook, or you can be a chef.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
So the short order cook gets the little green piece of paper that says, 2 eggs, ham, and a muffin. And they go out
and you fill the order, and that's that.
Fill the order. A chef
I gotcha.
looks at that and says, I can fulfill somebody's breakfast. How do I want to fulfill this breakfast in a way that satisfies them and satisfies everybody at the meal and brings them a full experience, and be willing to say to the person who's put the order in, hey, I've come up with something special for you. That's creativity. And I think, those creative people have to think just like, creativity, whether you're a songwriter or you write movies, or, you're an editor or a video game developer. You have to feel aligned to what you're trying to do. You have to feel safe at what you do, and you have to feel like you're assured at the end it was worth it. Wow. That's what we tried to do.
That's really good advice. I'm a little shocked, actually, to hear it in that context. I was thinking about George Orwell, and I put I don't know if you can see it. I put a quote of his: "Writing a book is a horrible, exhausting struggle, like a long bout of some painful illness. One would never undertake such a thing if one were not driven by some demon whom one can neither resist nor understand."
Yeah.
And I feel like that's spot on. I've written 3 books, and I know you wrote a book.
Yep.
I'm not trying to segue into that right now yet, but we can if you want to. And I just think like it was a burden for sure. And it felt like I had to get it out, especially the first time, a lot harder than I thought it would be. The second time was the second book that I wrote was a little bit easier because it was like a expansion, and eventually it became more of a desktop, reference, more of a tome than a book, if you will. And then the third one was the book that I meant to write, because it had a story, and now I had all this life experience and and everything. And that's the third one that is really the one that I felt like when I finished that book, I finally got the monster out. The demon was out. And I'm like, all right, the demon's out. People are like, oh, you're going to write another one or whatever. And I'm like, I never did it for commercial success. I never wrote the book because I was going to make a bunch of money. I mean, you don't get rich off of writing a book in TA. There's not that many people, unless you're writing, Pulp Fiction or whatever.
Right.
But it was a feeling of like continuously giving birth to ideas and then having them assassinated in front of your eyes over and over and over again until you finally arrive at something that just was okay. Like I'm okay with this book. I finished it.
Right.
It's not good enough.
Yeah.
But I finally got it out.
Yeah, and I would encourage everybody who's watching and listening, like, if you've got that little creative voice inside of you, that thing that's been bothering you, like I should do this, I know I should do this, go do it.
Go do it.
Go do it. Like,
don't worry about whether it's going to sell copies or not. Just do
no,
it.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And
No.
listen, if it's the painting that you've always thought I should go paint it. If it's the crochet that you think you should always have made, go make it. This life experience is too short for us to look over our shoulders and say, well, if or but, if I just would have done those things, it's too short, And I'll tell you this, I think releasing the creative spirit in yourself opens up all kinds of productivity in other parts of your life. It really does. It really does. It just.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah.
It does. It frees you, and so yeah, let's all strive towards freeing ourselves.
That's a good point.
Let's go do it.
It's like a cathartic. That's what I was trying to explain. You really pinpointed that, a cathartic sort of release of this pent up frustration.
Yeah. Well,
for not getting it out. And I used to blog too, and I stopped blogging when I started writing the book because it was too much.
Yeah.
To do both, and then and now I'm starting to write again, but it's it's not quite the same. So wow. All right. So
we'll move on. But the other thing I'll just say about this is that I'm spending a bunch of time now actually thinking about mind space. Like if I could. If there was a great, AI agent that could go into your brain and go, okay, so where is all your mind space actually being taken up, conscious and subconscious?
What happens when employees behave badly? Boy, we could do an entire TV show, maybe a Netflix special on that. Well, Ryan and I sat down and recorded episodes for FAMA, and we asked practitioners, give us your most outrageous story. The sales leader that brings cocaine to work, whatever. Just bring us the outrageous, and it is funny. So if you need a laugh, which we all do from time to time, search for workplace misconduct wherever you get your podcast, and you'll find it. And trust me, you will laugh and cry, but you'll definitely laugh. All right. Thank you.
Like what's taking it? If it's a computer and it's processing, what's running in there? And like, if you've got something that you feel like you ought to go do and don't do it, it just takes up mind space. Like it's hanging there, just like, and it comes back. And even if it's just, I only think about this once every other week or something, it's still that moment is something that could be freed up to process something else in our brains. And so,
liberate yourself.
It is. And I'm thinking about, this with relationships and, company relationships and boards and, things that I spend time on that really, should I, and even if I stop and think about, should I not be doing this, it's taking up mind space. How do we clear those things?
Just get it done.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
At least do it, and then you can always go back and edit it. That's what I did. I did it, and then I was the editorial process took a whole year because long story short, we hired a couple of editors. One, they didn't all do a great job, but it took us a year to get this thing to print after I'd already put virtually down the pen. Not that I used the pen.
Yeah.
But, so I did want to jump to another thing I was going to ask you about that I believe you're very passionate about, and you definitely see it out in the media when you when I Google your name. You worked with a couple of boards. Glassdoor was one of them, but also the Grammy Foundation. And how do you approach boardroom influence? Something that I have absolutely no. The closest I've ever been to a board is I've been an advisor or board of advisors member, but never, in a board the way I think of it as like a board of shareholders or whatever. Yeah. How do you approach boardroom influence differently when the product is creative, data, music, democracy, or is it different? I mean,
no.
Let me just leave it there.
No, I don't think it's different, Shelley.
You've done tech, you've done art.
Yeah, I've had this spectrum. What I would say is like a boardroom responsibility whether it's for-profit, nonprofit, creative, non-creative, whatever, is very similar. It's very similar. You carry a responsibility at that level because if it's a for-profit organization, you carry a fiduciary responsibility. In a nonprofit, you actually carry a fiduciary responsibility as well. It's just a different kind of shareholder. But what you carry and what is most important in that role is that you are affirming and influencing vision and direction and mission of the organization.
Okay.
And you are affirming, confirming, resourcing, and managing the talent that will get that mission done. Right.
So let me dig into that one thing, and
Yes.
I'll let you continue. Sorry to interrupt you, but
No.
that one is like a brain zap to me. So I've asked a couple of people that I trust about, being a board member and things like that. I'm exploring, looking into participating in that kind of thing. It's still pretty, early, but I've asked some friends about it. And one thing sort of struck me as well, I want to confirm this.
Okay.
Is it true that the board's most important, if not really their single job, is to hire the right CEO? Is that really kind of what it comes down to? I know I'm boiling a lot of things down here, but that's what has been told to me.
It's the leader. Yes, the leader.
Right.
Yes, and the CEO. So
whatever. The leader of the actual enterprise that does the whatever it is.
That's right. And then once that person is in place,
they're the executive,
working with that person to do all the other things that I talked about. That's
you execute through them, so they go out and do whatever the board.
Right.
So that is true. Then wow, that's kind of a So that's kind of like the ultimate recruiting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like some boards of smaller organizations, they'll be somewhat operational. Like like I might have a piece of the puzzle and say, hey, could you go do this, on the sales channel, or
so you run a committee of some kind.
Yes, and but the best functioning boards are actually governance boards, and those are the ones that hire the CEO, support the CEO, help them make sure that they've got the right team, all the things that I just talked about. Yeah, so I'm with that. You boil it down. That's the person. And if you look at examples of where companies go wrong, when they're big mistakes, they've either hired the wrong CEO or the CEO that they put in is now not performing the way they are supposed to, and the board takes no action.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And we've watched companies fail, and and the board sort of skates off. I mean, listen, boards have insurance for a reason, right?
Okay.
It's called officer and director, or director and officer insurance, D&O, and so they are insured against the things that might go wrong, and a shareholder comes back and tries to get at them. They've got personal insurance. I mean.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of responsibility. But I will encourage you and others. So like if someday you want to run an organization, you should understand how a board works, and because you're going to have a board.
That's what I'm trying to learn.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And if you can't get on a corporate board, get on a nonprofit board. It's the same.
Well, I ran a nonprofit for 7 years, the Sourcing Institute Foundation.
Yeah.
And we did have a small board, but the board was the 5 members of our board were very much helping the mission of the organization.
Yeah.
In some way. I mean, they didn't have jobs with the foundation. They had their own businesses, but it was definitely about helping us move the needle. And we just kind of voted on things together. It wasn't really a big, we didn't need to hire anybody because the nonprofit was all about working with other organizations' money. What the foundation did is we worked with organizations that had already vetted their clients. Like for example, Project Starfish, working with the blind. So we didn't have to worry about fiduciary responsibility as much because all of us were volunteers and the foundation was really running on a very lean, budget. So I didn't learn what you're saying. That's what I'm trying to get into that. which brings me to reinvention and reframing reinvention, and reframing reinvention as a strategy, not as a risk, which I think, especially nowadays, in all of the, maybe a timely subject to connect things back to AI and the hype and all that. With all of the hype going on, there are people who are worried about their career and their future. Whether or not, I don't want to get into a discussion about whether or not AI is going to take your job. People who listen and know me, they know that I have a very strong opinion about that. But the point I'm asking about is reinvention. If you want to reinvent yourself because you think AI is going to take your job, still a good reason. But I want to take this as an opportunity to look at it as a strategy, which is what you've done. And pivot, you've said career pivots are superpowers.
Yeah.
So you're taking kind of like reinventing yourself and transitioning into another sector, industry, et cetera. This may be a time in history where a lot of us in TA find ourselves making that change. What was a moment in your own journey where a left turn, and I mean that in a turn against the expected outcome, when you took a left turn, meaning like you did the thing that was different?
Yeah.
When was a moment in your career or your journey where a left turn led to the absolute most growth? And I want to use that as a way to say, sometimes we got to take a left turn. I do have my own story, but you're the guest. I want you to kind of tell us about that.
Yeah. It was definitely when I left EA as the CHRO and became the CEO of Snowcap. So
you
Snowcap
left HR and went into
became the chief executive officer.
Right.
So I had been this HR guy, since I was a pup, and I'd been fortunate enough to kind of move quickly into roles where I became consigliere and a trusted person with the CEO or with a line manager, right? And what is that? That's kind of like you tell them how to do their job. And I spent a lot of time telling them how to do their job.
As a consultant, that's the advice. You're an advisor. You're an advisor.
Right. Exactly.
You don't have to do the job, but you
right. And so when the opportunity came to me to say you should go do the job, you should go do the job. I'm like, well, for 20 years I've been telling other people how to do the job. Maybe I should go see if I can do it myself.
Okay.
And guess what? It's hard. It's a lot harder.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder than I advised people it was. Mm-hmm. Because what I didn't realize is how lonely it is.
It is very lonely at the top.
To be the CEO. And the number of constituents that you have to serve. Because you serve your shareholders.
Yep.
You serve your board. You serve your customers and your partners. Mm-hmm. You serve the people who report directly to you.
Yep.
And you serve all the employees in the business.
It also sometimes you serve a community as well.
And you might have a community outside.
Yeah, even though it may not be, but that's right.
Okay. So you got 5, 6, 7,
bodies of constituency
that you have to serve. And what do you do? Well, with all of that, you can't serve them all well.
You can't balance the needs of everybody together at the same time.
You can't. So you have to put trusted people in some roles to help you do that. So like at EA, I was very lucky. My boss, Larry, he was like, Rusty, you deal with the board.
Okay.
Right? You work with the board. Okay. Right? And I was like, I can do that. So every day I would talk to a board member. I would just keep a schedule, and I would go through it. I'd make sure that I talked to board members. And the number one thing he asked, he says, look, the only thing I ask is whatever you hear from a board member, I should be the next person to hear it. And I'm like, absolutely. So I would talk to, Dick, and I would talk to Bob, and I would talk to Janine, and then I would walk down the hallway to his cubicle and I say, hey, Larry, I just got off the phone with Dick, and here's what's going on.
Is that like nowadays turned into a chief of staff? Is that what that?
I guess you could call it that today. I would say that I think sometimes chief of staff is an inflated title, but
Yeah, but you know what I mean, though, the strategic, year of the CEO kind of. Okay.
Right. So yeah. I was lucky. I learned how to do that. Now I'm running my own company, and I don't know anybody to do that with. And I'm like,
you have to find the people.
Whoa,
you have to find the right people.
I got to find good people, or I'm just going to be overwhelmed, and I'm going to drown.
Yep.
So that was the biggest left-hand turn. I learned so much Like, I learned the whole venture cycle. I raised a bunch of money, and at the time we were the darlings, and full page story in the New York Times on a Sunday with me and Sean Fanning and Ali Idar standing on a balcony in San Francisco looking out over the bay, one of those kinds of exposés, because here we were, this music startup that was going to change everything, and raised a bunch of money, spent a bunch of money, sold the company before it went out of business. I mean, I ran the whole cycle. Guess what? It's very helpful today when I work with startups.
I bet. Yeah.
I've been there, done that. Let me tell you. And I never would have gotten them. I never would have learned those if I would have stayed where I was. And now, what I would also tell you quickly is I might have jumped off the curve a little too soon.
Okay. Yeah. That's the risk.
Yeah. So I've been at EA for 7 years. Great things were happening. All was good. Did I know everything? Had I learned everything that I could have learned? Probably not. Like if I look back at it now, if I'd stayed for another 3-4 years, I would have probably been a much better executive, much more mature executive. I was pretty young back then, much more mature executive. So did I jump off the curve a little early? Yeah, I might have. But if I hadn't jumped off the curve then, would I ever jumped off the curve? So you don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the risk. Right. And that was what I was getting at, is don't look at it as the what if, but it's the strategy side of it was, I got to do this and go in this other direction. And there may be risks. Maybe it was too early, but you did the right thing in making the change in that journey at that time, even if you feel like later on you could have stayed a little bit longer, because the outcome was better than expected.
Yeah. Yeah. And the voice inside of it, it's the S curve. Everybody knows the S curve. You go off,
Self-doubt.
You don't want to go over the top. You want to, right before you get to the top, you got to take the dip and, and start a new curve. And I think that voice inside of us, that rumbling, that says, oh man, maybe it's time for change. Am I been doing this for too long? Am I really learning and growing? Am I too comfortable? If I feel a little uncomfortable, I know that I'm growing. That's that moment that you got to stop and evaluate strategically and go, is it time? Is it time?
Is it worth it? And don't think about guaranteed outcomes.
No.
Yeah, that's what I've learned.
Yeah.
Well, that's great advice. I think, so my little story, not anywhere near as epic as that, was when I was working at Fiserv, and I'd been there, I was at Fiserv for 5 years, big company. They run still. I mean, they're the biggest, provider of like bank software and a lot of the transactions, especially electronic checks and things like that. So really huge company, very influential. I was there for a while. About the fourth year, somewhere in between the third and fourth year, I shifted into workforce planning and forward-thinking pro forma style analytics of an organization from a talent acquisition and performance point of view. And I essentially departed from the sourcing that I was known for, and went into this other area that was very much by the numbers, looking at data, projecting data, cleaning data, learning about data hygiene and the risks of misinterpreting data and everything. So workforce planning, workforce intelligence, workforce analytics. It was a big transition, but it was worth it because when I left Fiserv, and ended up going into consultancy, I was then able to transition. As a consultant, I now had several more cards in my deck that I didn't have before that I could put in play. Even they might have been low face cards. They might have been 5s and 6s and 7s, because I'd just done it for a year and a half and I wasn't as expert as I was on the thing that I invented. Right. But it was worth the risk because later on I've used it in enough projects as a consultant that I feel like the bad decision would have been to stay in TA, kind of like stay too long, right?
Yeah.
Overstay my welcome. And or even worse, fully move over into that and then stay on that side. So I kind of visited that planet for a year and a half and then came back to the other planet and has started colonizing a new civilization, of like mental abilities and acuities. So growth is what this is about, and it definitely led to that. It was painful. It led to a year of not the best place in the world, which I'm not going to regret, but it was a learning experience. So
yeah. Let me say this about talent acquisition, though.
Yeah.
A lot of people jump out of talent acquisition, I think, way too early. And I'm not saying this about what you did, because I think
there's like a 5 or 6 year tenure. That's right.
Yeah. One of the things that that I hope I've left behind is that there's some really some people that I was lucky enough to hire. They worked for me. We grew together, and they've done phenomenal things, and they've created legacies of their own. I'm very proud to be a part of that tree.
Yep.
And one of those people is Cindy Nicola. Okay, Cindy Nicola, who you'll get. Used to be Cindy Houck when I hired her at EA. She was an HR generalist. I brought her over, and I said, I think you've got the stuff to run staffing and talent for me. I think you got the stuff. You go, well, what's the stuff? I said, you've got the drive, you've got the personality, you've got the smarts. I think your instincts are right. You could do this. And so she came in and, didn't know anything. I taught her, she learned, she taught me things we did. And she turned out to be an amazing talent acquisition person, rose up at EA, left EA, recruited to Apple, to work with Steve Jobs, recruited out of there by Elon Musk to go do talent at Tesla, recruited out of there, by RJ at Rivian to go to Rivian, and now she's at Databricks, right? So what a career trajectory. There was a point in her career where, we sat and she talked about it and said, there's a CHRO job available for me.
Okay.
And I said, Cindy, you'd be a great head of HR. There's no doubt about it. I said, but there's a lot of heads of HR. There's a lot of heads of HR. How many people are there in industry, in technology, that have stayed in the talent space, who've become not only good at it, but they've mastered it and they've become experts and they're thought leaders? How many of them are there? You can count them on one hand, right? Because they go off and they do other things. I said, I think, if your passion and your drive, because listen, one of the toughest job in the world is being a recruiter, because you never turn it off. Right?
It's a very thankless job too. I think.
When you do turn it off, you've got a hiring manager that says, "Where the heck are you?" And you've got a candidate that's going saying, "Where the heck are you?" Right? So you're caught in the middle all the time. But if you've got the drive and the passion for it, it is a thing that can create an enormous successful career. And I will also say that is in business, is one of the most, not productive, but rewarding and fulfilling role you can have, because you help people's professional dreams come true. And when you help people's professional dreams come true, their personal dreams come true. And so by putting the right person in the right job and being the engineer and the architect of making that happen, being the chef that can do that, you have an enormous influence on people and their full potential being reached in its societal. I mean, you can look back at it and there are people who will remember the person who recruited them into that job that became their dream job. They never forget them. It's like elementary school teachers. You never forgot her name. It's the same thing, because they can have such an impact. And so as we talk about pivoting and and reinventing and all those things, you can actually do it in the lane you're in, and grow and do all these things, and still stay in a place that is so darn important. And I'll just I'll end my rant with this. We need more great talent acquisition people. We need people who care, right? Who don't cut corners, who care about great hiring, who feel they feel like they've let themselves down and others down when they make a bad hire.
If you do it right, that's how it is. But I feel like I'm not trying to pass judgment. I just feel like it's not done right in a lot of ways. And maybe that's what, I don't know why, but maybe that's why. Maybe it's because sometimes people are in it for a job, and and there's nothing wrong with having a job, obviously, but sometimes people are in it because it's a paycheck rather than for the right reasons. And I think if you get both, the paycheck, and you're doing it for the right reasons, and you do it that way, it makes a big difference. Otherwise, it's just a transaction, and you're going to get the same results that everybody else gets.
Yeah.
With just a transaction. Don't expect to, you know what I'm talking about.
But I think we should carry on our shoulders the burden, to go back to it, the burden
It's a big burden.
A good hire, and also what happens with a bad hire. Like if there's anything that in the business world that has more bad impact on somebody, I can't think what it is than a bad hire. Like somebody's got a great job. We recruit them, right? From Buffalo to St. Louis. They got a great job. We take her out of her finance job. She's going to be a CFO in St. Louis. She gives up this great career, all this personal equity that she's built, with her company. Her family has to pick up and move. They go, and they're in St. Louis. And 6 months later, their kids ask their father, "Why is mommy crying at the kitchen table?"
Wrong move.
Because it wasn't, because somebody
the wrong move.
Didn't do their work, right? Didn't go hard enough into the understanding between what the person and the company both wanted. Like when a company says, "Oh, somebody's been there for 6 months, it wasn't a fit." Well, shame on the company. It wasn't the employee. It wasn't the employee. It was the company that didn't do their work to really find out if it was a fit or not, right? Or we tried to put a square peg in a round hole because we needed to fill it, or wow, this candidate is quick, I can get it done. The impact is unbelievable because it's not only on this person who now has to, for the rest of their career, might have to sit across from a recruiter and go, "So tell me about that. What happened? What happened?" And you tell them the truth. You say, "Well, it didn't work out, and I missed it." And they're questioning your judgment, or they might think you're not being honest. You see that look in their eyes. So you're on the defense for a long time in your career. Hopefully, you get over it. It's not just the economic impact; it's the impact of picking up your family, moving the kids. The trailing spouse or the partner might have given up their job, and then you've got these children who are looking at it and going, "Hey, you know what? I'll never trust a company. Are you kidding me?" I remember what they did to my mom. So, if we look the arc of millennials and Gen Z, and we go, you know what, they're not like the boomers. They're not engaged. They're not committed. Well, let me tell you, I can trace back and show you layoffs, or I can show you the Great Recession when we asked people to take pay cuts.
I remember that. I was there.
And they went home and they told their family, "We can't go on vacation this year because if I'm not in the office, I might lose my job. And by the way, we can't afford it because I had to take a 10% pay cut." And some, teenagers or 10-year-olds are sitting there going, "Huh, I don't think I want to work for companies."
Well, it's not. Yeah. Well, you got to find the right company, or But
and guess what we got?
That's what we got.
We got people who are like, "You know what? Yeah, I work to get my paycheck to do the things that I want to do in life. I don't work because that's the thing I do in life." Now, that may be good. That really may be good.
Yeah, the whole work to live versus live to work argument, right?
Yeah, but it is a long rant, and I apologize, but I want to say it in a positive way. That if you're in talent acquisition and you have the responsibility, it is an awesome, great responsibility. Take it.
Do it. Because if you do it right, it really does impact.
You can
It has a
you can
long
change
tail.
somebody's life. You
Yep.
can change
You can
somebody's
change
life.
someone's life who will change other people's lives, who will, improve things down the line. So that is,
The
we
recruit.
don't often have as people a lot of opportunity to make such a big impact. Not everybody can be a CEO or president, or, not everybody wants to be or has the time or the resources or whatever. But this is something that it's a job where you can have very lasting, positive outcomes for other people if you do it right, if you give a shit,
Yeah,
basically.
that's right.
Yeah.
Thanks. The recruiter from Heidrick and Struggles that called me at PepsiCo that I told every recruiter for years and years and years, don't call me unless it's entertainment media. And in 1994, I started saying our technology that enables entertainment or media. And the guy cared enough to dig below it and to see, and he called me.
Technology and entertainment. That's smart.
He goes, and I think I have it for you. And he
Right.
goes, it's an electronic art. I said, what's an electronic art? He says, what's an electronic art? It's a video game. And I started to brush him off. I go, I don't play video games. And he said, Rusty,
Other people do.
this is the future.
Right. Other people play video games.
Yeah, this is the future. Right? And he that was a left-hand turn out of and changed my life. Changed my life. Wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I doubt it.
Oh, I can give you so many stories of people whose lives were changed directly and just because of me making the push to introduce them and pushing the hiring manager. But we're getting pretty short on time, and normally on this show I have two closing questions. You are such a unique and special guest that actually I'm going to waive both of those. The question that I always ask is who should be on our next show. But you already gave me Cindy Nicola. So I'm going to try to, unless you have another one, I'll take two. If you have another one, you can give me another one. But that's usually the hardest one for folks to think of someone. Do you have a second person? I'll take you down. Otherwise,
go with Cindy. Go with
got
Cindy.
it. And then the other question was something related to a question that we can ask ourselves as we view this, replay it, and think about it. So it's something we can answer for ourselves. But I have a better one specifically for you. What do you believe, in your experience, most companies get wrong about chasing the perfect candidate? Is that, what I'm saying? Like, hiring manager, this happens a lot. Hiring managers want the perfect candidate. Oh, that person's great, but I want to see what else is out there. It happens so often that I think that there's this false belief, this false thought that if we wait or if we look hard enough, we'll find the perfect candidate. Does that really exist? Is that the secret to hiring well, is being able to find perfect candidates? What do you think about that?
The pace of change in the world of business is fast, and that drives incredible complexity for the world of human resources.
Welcome to the HR Data Labs podcast, a series of conversations with experts inside and outside the world of HR on how to innovate, measure, and evolve our practices.
Our goal is to help provide you with practical examples of how HR has to change to meet the complexity of the business environment.
Every week, we'll talk to new and different voices on all aspects of HR.
And at times, we'll get irreverent.
Silly even.
And sometimes geek out on the data and technology that underlie the processes that drive the world of HR.
But the conversations are always insightful and fun. So please, enjoy the HR Data Labs podcast.
There's no perfect candidates. Are you kidding me?
So why does this happen?
Okay. Because not enough time and intellectual discipline has been spent on the spectrums of what is great and what is not great that's needed.
Okay.
Right? So not enough time is spent going, all right, financial acumen, yes, it's got to be on top of it.
So there's not one line of the perfect candidate.
No.
There's zero to perfection in multiple lines, and if you hit some,
yes, and we don't attenuate, right? We just take them all to 10 and go. They got to be a 10 on everything.
On everything,
and then we miss these people who, like, if we had waited, taken the spectrums and weighted them and done all the hard work to do that, we would say, they don't have this yet.
Yeah.
But they have all the indications that they're going to. And that feels good to me, right? And we can coach here. We can develop there. Now, companies say, I don't have time to coach and develop. We're not really good at coaching and develop. I just got to have the perfect thing. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, that's different, though. I think that's a strategic question. Mine was more around the myth of the perfect candidate.
I don't think there's any such thing.
Even existing.
I don't think so. I mean, look, if that was the case, all the draft picks in sports, the top draft picks would all be all-stars, right? I mean, you got the best information that you have. You make your pick, and you think, well, they were first round. They're all going to be great. They're not all great. Only a few of them turn out to be great. But you do the best that you can. But I think with the myth of passing on people because they're not perfect, like I've been a long believer that, how many times have we all been there where the first candidate was the candidate that really was the one that we should have hired?
Yeah, it's like, right. I mean, I don't know if you were close with Steve Jobs during the time that he hired Johnny Ive.
But he was already there by the time I knew him.
He was, okay. But that's the myth right there. There's many examples of this myth, but the myth of let's hire the next Johnny Ive. We can't find Johnny Ive when he's Johnny Ive.
No.
We got to find him before he becomes Johnny Ive. So, the person who becomes the designer of the iconic Apple iPhone didn't already design the iconic Apple iPhone before you hired them.
Oh, that's right.
They're going to do that. And so they weren't perfect.
Yeah.
But they had something. So I think that's kind of where the myth.
It is. And I know we got to wrap it. I'll say this too. The perfect candidate might be the one that's already just sitting down the hall.
Oh, damn.
Right. Because we know them, we see their warts and we see their issues. And the grass over here looks like I don't know any of that.
Man, that is deep.
They've got the same issues, folks. They've got all the same problems. What we have right here is someone that we trust. If they can grow, they can be great. Why do we have to look to the outside? Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to. But problem with corporations is we just like everything else in life, we like the new shiny penny.
The grass is always greener.
Why do we need the new? I can't even use that analogy anymore. The new shiny nickel, because there are no new shiny pennies anymore. But why do we feel like we have to do that? Why do we feel like when we've got this person here that with just a little bit of buffing them a little bit and a little of this, they're as shiny as anybody? It's a lower risk move.
We got a couple of seconds left, and I wanted to plug. I don't normally do this because this is not a commercial show, but I do want to plug your book, The Faith Code.
Yeah.
So, can you give us a 30-second pitch on that?
Yeah. It's the intersection of faith, and you can define faith as you want to. I'm a Christian, so that's how I define.
Yeah,
faith.
Not religion, but faith. Right.
Faith. It's the intersection of faith and your work. And how those two things are really important, and how having a foundation of faith as a platform that you can build any life app on top of, in my estimation, just makes things work better. And I think that we all have to have a strong platform. Platforms that aren't strong in technology, we know what happens to them when they crash. Right. Everything crashes. Right. But sometimes we don't build our platforms. We spend a bunch of time building apps in our lives, and they become really important to us, like our jobs. It's not a foundation. It's an app. And when it gets pulled out from underneath you and crashes,
you don't have a foundation.
You have no foundation. You don't have anything to fall back on. So it's just an encouragement to look at the platform of your life in relationship with all of the apps and make sure that platform is strong.
So folks can just look it up, probably on Amazon or whatever, but the Faith Code.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
It's right there. So thank you for the plug. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Not while we're here, but
not while we're here. Not going to make any money off it.
Yeah.
And you're certainly not going to get rich off of writing a book. You know? But I'm glad you did, and I'm glad it's out there. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. I will reach out to Cindy and see if I can get her on here, folks.
And I'll do the same.
Really, yeah, thank you. Really appreciate y'all being here. I know it's an hour off your Friday, but I hope you learned a lot. I certainly did. I know that for sure. Next week, we have Kevin Grossman, who made a big decision and took the Candies to a new place and has a new home. So both Kevin and the Candies have a new home, and he's the I guess, I don't know, the CEO, leader. I'm not sure exactly. We'll find out more next Friday. So come and talk about the Candies, the Candidate Experience Awards, and Kevin and other things like that next Friday. Hopefully, we'll see you here. Until then, please be kind to yourselves. Thanks, Rusty. See ya, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.